What if the dog everyone was afraid to touch was not trying to attack anyone at all, but was desperately trying to escape pain? What if the growl everyone heard was not a warning of violence, but a cry from an animal that had forgotten what safety felt like? Rain had been falling over Tacoma since the middle of the night. By early morning, the windows of the emergency veterinary hospital were covered with streams of water, turning the traffic lights outside into blurry red and green shadows. Inside, the clinic was already crowded. A small terrier had just survived a dangerous choking emergency. A frightened woman was holding a cat wrapped inside a towel. A young boy stood near an examination room, staring at his sick dog and trying very hard not to cry. Maya Reed had been working for almost 10 hours. Her dark hair was tied behind her head, and a small stain of dried blood was still visible on the sleeve of her navy scrubs. She had planned to change clothes hours earlier, but emergencies kept arriving. She was a senior veterinary technician, and she had learned one important lesson during her years working with injured animals. An animal did not always show pain by crying. Sometimes pain looked like anger. Sometimes fear looked like aggression. And sometimes the most dangerous-looking animal in the room was actually the one that needed the most help. Maya had just finished helping Dr. Nora Bennett remove a piece of rubber from a terrier's throat when the automatic doors at the front of the clinic opened. At first, Maya heard only the sound of claws against the floor. Click, click, drag, click. The waiting room became strangely quiet. People turned toward the entrance. A tall man walked inside wearing a soaked dark tactical jacket. His hair was cut short, and his face looked tired and hard. In his right hand, he held a thick black leash. Beside him walked a large Belgian Malinois. The dog's name was Ranger. He wore a heavy metal muzzle. His black and brown coat was wet from the rain, and several old scars crossed his face. His left rear leg barely touched the floor. The man stopped at the reception desk. "My dog needs his hip examined," he said. The receptionist, Tessa, looked carefully at the dog. "How long has he been limping?" "About 3 weeks. Ranger suddenly growled. It was not loud. That somehow made it more frightening. A woman quickly lifted her small Pomeranian from the floor. A teenager holding a cat pulled his feet beneath his chair. The man tightened his grip on the leash. "Nobody touches him," he said. "He'll bite." Maya looked at Ranger. She did not look at his teeth. She looked at his eyes. The dog was not staring at the other animals. He was watching hands. Every time someone moved a hand, his eyes followed it. Every time the leash became tighter, his body became smaller. Maya had seen that before. She had seen dogs called vicious when they were actually terrified. She had seen animals bite because nobody noticed the infected wound beneath their collar. She had learned that a frightened animal could become dangerous when it believed there was no escape. Maya stepped toward the reception desk. "Has he bitten anyone recently?" The man's eyes moved toward her. "My name is Ethan Cross." He placed a weathered folder on the counter. "He is a retired military working dog. He knows how to follow commands." Maya looked at Ranger. The dog was standing against Ethan's leg, but it did not look like affection. His muscles were rigid. His ears were pressed backward. His breathing was too fast for a cool room. "What commands does he need?" Maya asked. Ethan's expression hardened. "Don't approach him from the front. Don't reach over his head. Don't touch his collar. Don't surprise him. Don't corner him." Maya paused. "That's quite a list. He was trained for combat." "How long has he been retired?" 13 months. Dr. Nora Bennett came from the treatment room, removed her gloves, and looked toward the dog. "What do we have?" Maya answered. "Retired military working dog. Left rear lameness. Reduced appetite. Possible aggression." Ethan immediately interrupted. "He only needs his hip examined." Dr. Bennett picked up the folder. "I'll decide what needs to be examined after I see him." Ethan did not like that answer, but he followed them toward examination room 4. Ranger did not. He stopped at the doorway. Ethan pulled the leash. Ranger's body dropped toward the floor. Maya noticed the reaction immediately. The command had been quiet. The leash had not. Ranger crossed the doorway and moved directly toward the far wall. He pressed his right shoulder against it. His injured side remained hidden. Maya closed the door gently. Ethan positioned himself between her and Ranger. I hold the leash. Maya nodded. Fine. You don't take it. Fine. He reacts badly to restraint. Maya looked at the 2 loops wrapped tightly around Ethan's hand. He is already restrained. Ethan stared at her. Maya opened the medical folder. The records told a very different story from the dog standing in front of them. Ranger had entered military training as a young adult. He had been trained in patrol work and explosive detection. He had served overseas. He had survived dangerous missions. His records contained vaccinations, dental examinations, conditioning reports, and notes about an old shoulder injury caused by shrapnel. But one page caught Maya's attention. His retirement examination had been completed 13 months earlier. His weight had been 79 pounds. His left hip showed mild degeneration. Nothing suggested a major injury. No neurological problem had been found. He had been considered suitable for retirement. After that, almost nothing. No regular medical examinations. No updated weight. No medication record. No follow-up for his hip. Maya looked at Ranger. Then she looked at Ethan. You said the limp started 3 weeks ago. Yes. Maya looked again at the dog's left rear leg. The muscles were noticeably smaller than those on the other side. That amount of muscle loss doesn't happen in 3 weeks. Ethan's jaw tightened. You haven't examined him. No. Then don't diagnose him. I'm not diagnosing him. Maya closed the folder. I'm observing him. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Ranger's breathing became faster. Maya watched his chest rise and fall. His eyes moved toward the door, then toward Ethan's hand, then back toward Maya. She lowered the overhead light. Ethan frowned. Why are you doing that? Reducing stimulation. He has worked under gunfire. He's not under gunfire now. Maya carefully removed a metal tray from the examination table. The instruments inside made a small metallic sound. Ranger jumped. His injured leg slipped. He caught himself against the wall. Maya looked at Ethan. You said his behavior hasn't changed. It hasn't. He nearly fell because of a sound. He's alert. He's frightened. Ethan's face became hard. Don't put human emotions on him. Maya looked directly at him. Fear isn't only a human emotion. Ranger lowered his head. Maya noticed something else. His body was trying to make itself smaller. He wasn't preparing to attack. He was trying to disappear while still watching every possible exit. Maya had seen that posture before during her years at an animal shelter. She remembered a shepherd mix that had been labeled dangerous because it growled whenever someone touched its face. The owner had claimed the dog suddenly became aggressive. The truth had been a fractured jaw. Another dog had bitten 2 shelter workers. The reason had been an infected wound hidden under its collar. Maya had learned never to trust a label before examining the pain underneath it. Dr. Bennett opened her examination kit. For safety, I recommend mild sedation before we examine the hip. Ethan immediately said no. Ranger flinched at the sound of his voice. Dr. Bennett remained calm. It will reduce his fear and prevent unnecessary pain. No. Without it, we may not be able to examine him properly. I'll find another clinic. Ethan turned toward the door. Ranger tried to follow. His left leg suddenly gave way. His shoulder hit the wall. Maya saw the wound more clearly now. A large rectangular patch of missing fur covered part of his side. The edges were too straight. It looked like repeated pressure against something hard. Possibly a crate. Maya looked at Ranger's muzzle. The skin beneath it was raw. The straps had rubbed the hair away. How much has he been eating? She asked. Yesterday he stopped. How much did he weigh before? I don't know. Maya looked at Ethan. You brought him here because he stopped eating, but you don't know whether he's been losing weight. He runs lean. Dr. Bennett stepped toward the scale. We need his current weight. Ethan guided Ranger onto it. The dog resisted. The leash tightened. Eventually, Ranger stepped onto the scale. The number appeared. 65 pounds. Maya looked at the retirement record. 79 pounds. 14 pounds had disappeared from the dog's body. Dr. Bennett entered the number into the record. Ethan stared at the screen. For the first time, uncertainty crossed his face. He has always been lean. Not this lean, Maya said. Ethan looked at her. You've known him for 5 minutes. Maya looked at Ranger. At his scarred face. His trembling leg. His hollow sides. His eyes following every movement of Ethan's hand. No, she said quietly. But his body has known this much longer. The room became silent. Only the rain could be heard against the window. Dr. Bennett prepared the examination equipment. Ethan shortened the leash again. Ranger's breathing immediately changed. His neck stiffened. His eyes widened. A low growl came from his chest. Maya looked at the leash. Then she looked at Ranger. Don't pull. Ethan stared at her. You giving me instructions? I'm telling you what your dog is showing us. He needs control. He needs space. Ethan tightened his hand. Ranger pressed himself harder against the wall. Maya slowly lowered herself toward the floor. She did not walk toward him. She did not reach for him. She simply made herself smaller. Ethan watched her. What are you doing? Giving him a choice. You are blocking the exit. Maya looked behind her. Then she moved several inches to the side. The path to the door was clear. Ranger looked at the opening. Then he looked back at Maya. She placed her hand on the floor. Palm down. Relaxed. She did not call him. She did not command him. She waited. 30 seconds passed. Then 40. Ranger's growl became softer. His nose moved behind the metal muzzle. He was smelling the air. Maya kept her eyes lowered. Direct staring could feel like pressure. Pressure was the one thing this dog had already received too much of. Ethan shifted his boots. Ranger immediately looked toward him. The leash tightened. The growl returned. Maya spoke quietly. Stop moving. Ethan looked at her. You don't command me. I'm not commanding you. She looked at Ranger. I'm explaining what he's telling us. The dog slowly shifted his weight. One paw moved forward. Maya did not move. Ranger took another step. His injured leg dragged behind him. The movement exposed how badly the muscles in his thigh had wasted away. Maya felt anger rising inside her. She pushed it down. The dog stopped several feet away. His head remained low. His eyes stayed on her hand. He took another step. Then another. He reached her fingers. The metal muzzle touched her knuckles. Maya remained still. Ranger inhaled. Once. Twice. Then he pressed his muzzle against her hand. Maya slowly raised her palm. She touched the scarred bridge of his nose. Ranger closed his eyes. The growl stopped. Ethan stared. He doesn't do that. Maya gently moved her thumb between Ranger's eyes. The dog leaned closer. Dr. Bennett watched from behind them. He is doing it now. Ranger lowered his head. Then he pressed his forehead against Maya's shoulder. His entire body trembled. Maya did not restrain him. She simply allowed him to stay there. For the first time since entering the clinic, Ranger had found something he could control. He had chosen to move closer. He had chosen the person touching him. And nobody had forced him. Ethan's voice became quiet. He hasn't done that since Afghanistan. Maya looked at him. What happened in Afghanistan? Ethan's eyes moved toward the rain-covered window. That's not why we're here. Maya looked down at Ranger. Maybe it is. Dr. Bennett slowly stepped closer. We need to remove the muzzle. Ethan immediately shook his head. No. It's cutting into his skin. He stays muzzled. I can't properly examine his mouth while it's on. He won't bite you. Maya looked at Ranger. Then back at Ethan. You're right. Ethan seemed surprised. Maya continued. He won't bite me if he feels he has a choice. Ethan said nothing. Dr. Bennett prepared a soft secondary lead. We'll keep the existing leash attached. Maya will place the soft lead loosely. Then we'll remove the muzzle. Ethan hesitated. Ranger looked at Maya. She waited. Finally, Ethan gave a small nod. Maya moved slowly. The soft lead passed over Ranger's head. When it touched his left ear, Ranger flinched violently. Maya stopped. She did not pull. She waited. Ranger's breathing slowly settled. Good, she whispered. Ethan's expression tightened. He's not a pet. Maya kept the lead loose. He's still a dog. She carefully released the first muzzle strap. Ranger breathed sharply. Maya waited. Then she released the second. The metal muzzle came away. Without it, Ranger looked older. Gray surrounded his mouth. A long scar ran beside his eye. The bridge of his nose was raw. Ranger licked his lips. Then he stepped toward Maya again. He placed his forehead against her shoulder. Ethan stared at them. Something changed in his face. He saved 6 men. Maya looked at him. Then he deserves to be saved too. Ethan looked away. Dr. Bennett began examining Ranger's body. His gums were pale. His mouth was dry. He was dehydrated. His ribs were too visible. His left thigh had severe muscle wasting. When Maya reached his rear leg, Ranger became tense. She stopped. It's okay. She touched the paw, then the ankle, then the knee. Ranger allowed it. But when her hand reached the upper leg, his entire body tightened. Maya stopped again. This has been hurting for a long time. Ethan shook his head. His hip was already bad. Mild degeneration is not the same as this. Dr. Bennett carefully palpated the area. Ranger whimpered. Then Maya touched another point. The dog cried out. Ethan immediately pulled the leash. Ranger's head snapped around. His mouth opened. For one terrifying second, his teeth were inches from Maya's arm. Everyone froze. But Ranger did not bite. Instead, he turned his head and pushed beneath Maya's arm. He buried his face against her. His body shook violently. Maya wrapped one arm loosely around him. Ethan stared. He could have bitten you. But he didn't. He is unpredictable. Maya looked at the leash in Ethan's hand. He reacted when you pulled. Ethan's voice became defensive. I was protecting you. Dr. Bennett spoke calmly. You increased the pressure while she was examining an injured area. Ethan looked at the X-ray request on the counter. Then take the X-rays. Dr. Bennett nodded. That's exactly what we're going to do. Maya looked down at Ranger. Easy boy. Ranger's head remained against her. The dog was still afraid. But for the first time, someone was listening. And within the next few minutes, the X-rays would reveal something that would change the entire story. Something that had been hidden beneath Ranger's coat. Something that would make everyone in that room ask one terrifying question. What had happened to this dog after the military had trusted him with human lives? The X-ray room was colder than the examination room. Ranger stood near the center of the floor while Maya kept one hand close to his shoulder. She did not hold him tightly. She simply stayed beside him so he would know that she was still there. Dr. Bennett prepared the machine. Ranger is going to hear some strange sounds, she said softly. Nobody should move suddenly. Ethan nodded. Maya looked at Ranger. You've got this. Ranger looked back at her. The machine moved above him. He immediately stiffened. His ears went backward. His eyes searched the room. Maya lowered her voice. Just a picture, boy. That's all. The machine made a mechanical clicking sound. Ranger flinched. Maya kept her hand against his shoulder. Good. Another click. Ranger breathed faster. Maya did not try to force him into position. She waited until his muscles relaxed before guiding him a few inches. Dr. Bennett took the first image. She looked at the screen. Her expression changed. Maya noticed. What? Dr. Bennett didn't answer immediately. She enlarged the image. The room became silent. Ethan stepped closer. What is it? Dr. Bennett pointed toward Ranger's left hip. The joint is badly damaged. Ethan frowned. From the old injury? No. Dr. Bennett zoomed in. This isn't simple arthritis. Maya looked at the image. The bones around the joint showed signs of severe degeneration. But there was something else. The structure looked abnormal. Could it be an old fracture? Maya asked. Possibly. Dr. Bennett took another image. This one showed the pelvis. She stared at it for several seconds. Then she looked at Ranger. How long has he been having trouble walking? Ethan answered immediately. 3 weeks. Dr. Bennett shook her head. This has been developing much longer. Ethan's face hardened. You already said that. I know. She pointed toward the screen. The damage is extensive. His body has been compensating for it. Maya looked at Ranger's back legs. He has been shifting his weight. Exactly. That's why the other leg is getting sore. Dr. Bennett nodded. Ranger had been carrying his weight differently for months, possibly longer. The limp everyone had noticed recently was not the beginning of the problem. It was the moment his body finally could not hide it anymore. Maya crouched beside him. Ranger looked at her. She touched his shoulder. How long have you been pretending you're okay? Ranger slowly lowered himself onto the floor. His head rested between his front paws. Ethan looked away. Dr. Bennett opened the medical record again. There is no recent orthopedic examination. I told you, Ethan said. He was retired. Retirement doesn't mean his body stops aging. Ethan didn't answer. Maya looked at the dog's condition. There was another concern. His blood work. Dr. Bennett nodded. Yes. They collected a small sample. Ranger barely reacted. That worried Maya more than if he had pulled away. An animal in severe pain usually reacted strongly to a needle. Ranger simply watched her. His eyes looked tired. The blood was sent to the laboratory. While they waited, Maya noticed something underneath his collar. A small piece of fabric had been trapped against the skin. She carefully moved the collar. Ranger suddenly pulled back. Maya stopped. It's okay. She waited. Ranger slowly returned. Maya lifted the collar just enough to see the skin underneath. There were old pressure marks. Some were healed. Others were irritated. She looked at Ethan. How often does he wear this? All the time. Why? Identification. He's microchipped. Ethan didn't answer. Dr. Bennett looked at the marks. That collar is too tight. Ethan became defensive. It fits. Maya looked at Ranger. If it fits, why is the skin damaged? Silence. Ethan reached toward the collar. Ranger immediately ducked. Maya saw it. So he doesn't like anyone touching it. He doesn't like being handled. There's a difference. Ethan's jaw tightened. Maya carefully removed the collar. Ranger lowered his head. For a few seconds he simply stood there. Then he took a long breath. His neck relaxed. Dr. Bennett looked at the collar. There were tiny dried blood marks on the inside. Maya felt a chill. Why is there blood? Ethan stared at the collar. I don't know. Dr. Bennett turned it over. A small metal tag was attached to it. The back of the tag had been scratched deeply. Maya could barely read the remaining letters. There was a date. And underneath it, a short code. Ranger's military identification number. Dr. Bennett looked at Ethan. Where did you get this collar? It came with him. From the military? Yes. Then why is it damaged? Ethan didn't respond. Ranger suddenly lifted his head. He was staring at the door. Maya followed his eyes. Nothing was there. Then Ranger began trembling. The door had not moved. No one had entered. But something had triggered him. Maya watched his breathing. Ranger? The dog looked toward the corner. His ears flattened. Then he crawled backward. His body pressed against the wall. Ethan stepped forward. Ranger growled. Maya immediately raised her hand. Don't. Ethan stopped. He does this sometimes. Does what? Stares at empty spaces. Maya looked at Dr. Bennett. The veterinarian's expression became serious. That isn't normal. Ethan shook his head. He's a combat dog. Combat dogs can still develop fear responses. He has seen worse than this. Maya looked at him. Seeing worse doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. The laboratory called. Dr. Bennett answered. She listened. Her face became more serious. Okay. Run the second panel too. She ended the call. Maya waited. What did they say? His blood work shows significant dehydration. Anything else? His muscle enzymes are elevated. Maya looked at Ranger. From the muscle damage? Likely. Kidneys. Not good. Ethan stepped forward. How bad? Dr. Bennett looked at him. Bad enough that I want him hospitalized tonight. Ethan shook his head. No. Maya stared at him. Why? He doesn't stay in hospitals. Why? He panics. Dr. Bennett looked at Ranger. He is already panicking. He'll be worse overnight. Maya spoke quietly. Then maybe he needs someone he trusts. Ethan looked at her. You think he trusts you? Ranger slowly walked toward Maya. He stopped beside her. Then he leaned his body against her leg. Ethan stared. Maya looked down. I think he's choosing where he feels safe. Ethan's expression changed. He looked almost hurt. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then Dr. Bennett said something that changed the room. We need to know what happened to him after retirement. Ethan looked toward her. I told you. He came home with me. Where was he before that? At the base. For how long? 6 weeks. Was he medically cleared? Yes. Was he examined before transfer? Yes. Do you have those records? Ethan hesitated. I have the retirement papers. All of them. Most. Maya noticed the hesitation. What's missing? Ethan looked at her. Nothing important. Dr. Bennett crossed her arms. If a dog has this degree of orthopedic damage, 14 pounds of weight loss, dehydration, muscle wasting, and untreated wounds, then the missing records may be very important. Ethan became silent. Ranger remained pressed against Maya's leg. The dog seemed exhausted. Dr. Bennett prepared a blanket. We are keeping him tonight. Ethan shook his head. No. Mr. Cross. No. He reached for Ranger's leash. Ranger moved backward. Maya saw fear flash across his face. Ethan stopped. For the first time, he seemed to realize something. Ranger wasn't afraid of the clinic. He was afraid of leaving Maya. Ethan slowly lowered his hand. He's never done that. Maya looked at him. Maybe he never had a reason to. Ethan looked at Ranger. The hard expression on his face began to break. He saved my life. Maya didn't respond. He pulled me out of a building. Ethan swallowed. There were 3 of us. His voice became quieter. Only 2 came home. Maya understood that the story was much bigger than an injured dog. Ethan continued. Ranger didn't leave me. He looked down. I was unconscious. He stayed beside me until the medics arrived. Maya gently touched Ranger's head. Then he deserves the same loyalty. Ethan looked at her. You don't understand. Then tell me. He looked away. I can't. Maya didn't push him. Some memories were too heavy to pull out by force. Instead, she stayed beside Ranger. The dog slowly lay down. His eyes closed. For the first time since arriving, he looked almost peaceful. Ethan sat in the chair near the wall. Dr. Bennett began entering treatment instructions. Fluids. Pain control. Blood monitoring. Orthopedic imaging. Possible surgery. Nutritional support. Maya read the list. Then she noticed something. Doctor. Dr. Bennett looked up. What? Look at his front paws. Ranger's paw pads were thickened and cracked. There were small cuts between his toes. Dr. Bennett examined them. He hasn't been walking on normal surfaces. Maya looked at the claws. They were unusually worn. He's been running. Ethan looked over. Of course he has. How often? Daily. How far? Several miles. Dr. Bennett looked at Ranger's damaged hip. With this injury? Ethan said nothing. Maya felt her stomach tighten. The dog had been running despite a deteriorating hip. His body had been screaming for rest. But his training had taught him to keep moving. That was the tragedy. Ranger did not know how to stop. He had spent his life obeying. If someone said run, he ran. If someone said search, he searched. If someone said stay, he stayed. Even when his body hurt. Even when his muscles were failing. Even when every step caused pain. He kept going. Because stopping had never been an option. Maya looked into his tired eyes. You're retired now. Ranger opened his eyes. You don't have to prove anything anymore. His tail moved once. Very slowly. Maya smiled. That's right. She sat beside him. You can rest. Ranger closed his eyes again. Outside, the rain continued. But inside the clinic, something had changed. Ranger was no longer being treated as a dangerous animal. He was being treated as an injured veteran. And before the night was over, Maya would discover one more detail hidden in his records. A detail that would raise a question nobody in the clinic was prepared to answer. Why had a military working dog with a serious injury been cleared for retirement without proper treatment? And who had known that Ranger was already suffering? The room seemed to become smaller after Ethan admitted that Ranger had once attacked another dog. Maya kept her hand near Ranger's shoulder, but she did not touch him anymore. The dog was breathing slowly now, although his eyes remained open. Dr. Bennett stood beside the examination table with the blood report in her hand. "So you did seek behavioral help?" she asked. Ethan nodded once. "I tried." "How many people?" "A trainer first. Then another one." "And a veterinary behavior specialist?" "Yes." "Did they recommend medication?" Ethan looked at Ranger. "Yes." "Did you give it to him?" "For a few days. And then I stopped." Dr. Bennett frowned. "Why?" "Because he wasn't himself." Maya looked at Ethan. "What does that mean?" "He became slow." "Slow how?" "He stopped reacting immediately." Maya understood. "To commands." Ethan said nothing. Dr. Bennett placed the report on the counter. "You were giving him medication for anxiety or trauma, and you stopped because he responded less quickly? He wasn't the same dog." "That may have been the point." Ethan's eyes hardened. "You weren't there." "No," Dr. Bennett said. "But I am here now." Ranger shifted slightly. His injured leg trembled. Maya immediately supported him. "Easy." The dog looked at her. His eyes were tired but focused. Ethan watched the interaction. "You don't understand what he was like." Maya turned toward him. "Then help us understand." Ethan remained silent. The rain continued outside. Dr. Bennett waited. Finally, Ethan spoke. After he came home, he couldn't sleep. Maya listened. He would walk through the house all night. Same route. Every night. How long? Hours. Did he rest during the day? Sometimes. Was he eating? At first. Then. He became selective. Maya glanced at Ranger. How selective? "He wouldn't eat if I wasn't in the room." That detail surprised her. It suggested something important. Ranger was not simply refusing food. He had developed a dependence on one specific condition before he felt safe enough to eat. "And noises?" Dr. Bennett asked. Everything bothered him. "Cars?" "Yes." "Doors?" "Yes." "Aircraft?" Ethan's expression changed. "Especially aircraft." Ranger's ears moved at the word. Maya noticed. She looked at him. Did he become frightened? He would run to the back door. Did he try to escape? Once. Once. Several times. Did he hurt himself? Ethan rubbed his forehead. He tore the skin on his paws. Maya looked at Ranger's feet. The cracked pads suddenly made more sense. She looked back at Ethan. "Did you take him to a veterinarian?" "Yes." "After the paw injuries?" "Not every time." Dr. Bennett's expression became more serious. "Why?" "Because I could treat small injuries myself." Maya looked at Ranger. "Like the wounds on his neck?" Ethan did not answer. "Like the cuts on his paws?" Still nothing. "The pressure injuries?" Ethan finally looked at her. "You think I wanted him hurt?" "No." Maya's voice was calm. "I think something happened that you didn't know how to handle." For the first time, Ethan did not argue. He looked exhausted. "I tried." Maya believed him. That was what made the situation more complicated. A person could love an animal and still fail it. A person could be loyal and still make terrible decisions. A person could believe they were helping while making an animal's fear worse. Ranger had spent years learning that obedience meant survival. Ethan had spent years learning that control meant survival. Perhaps neither of them had learned how to live without the war. Dr. Bennett moved closer to the X-ray monitor. "Let's go back to the hip." Ethan looked at the screen. The image showed the damaged joint. The retirement X-ray showed mild degeneration. Dr. Bennett said, "What we're seeing now is completely different." Ethan stared at the image. Could the old problem have become this bad naturally? Not this quickly. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying the arthritis alone does not explain everything." Maya looked at the pelvic fractures. "And the fractures?" Dr. Bennett pointed toward the screen. Those are old enough to have started healing. Could a fall cause them? Possibly. A vehicle accident. Possibly. Another animal? Less likely. Ethan's face became tense. What about combat? Dr. Bennett looked directly at him. The military films don't show these injuries. Silence. Ranger lifted his head. Ethan noticed. Don't. The command was soft. Ranger lowered his head. Maya watched him. The dog had obeyed instantly. But she had seen something else. His whole body had become rigid. It was not relaxation. It was shut down. Maya quietly said, "You don't have to say that to him." Ethan looked at her. He's trained. He's injured. He knows the difference. Does he? Ethan looked at Ranger. The dog's eyes were closed. Maya lowered her voice. Watch his breathing. Ethan did. Ranger's chest was moving quickly. He is afraid, Maya said. Ethan shook his head. No. Then what do you call that? Focus. Dr. Bennett interrupted. Call it whatever you want. His heart rate is elevated. Ethan looked toward the monitor. Maya gently moved her hand closer to Ranger. The dog slowly opened his eyes. She did not touch him. She simply stayed near. His breathing began to slow. Ethan noticed. He looked confused. What did you do? Nothing. You touched him. Not anymore. Maya sat down on the floor. I stopped asking him to respond. Ethan stared at her. He needs commands. Right now he needs pain control. Ranger shifted again. A small sound escaped his throat. Maya looked at Dr. Bennett. He's hurting. I know. The doctor prepared medication. Ethan immediately stepped forward. What are you giving him? Pain medication. Which one? Dr. Bennett told him. How much? The appropriate dose for his current weight. Ethan looked suspicious. Maya understood why. This man had spent years believing that control was the only thing keeping Ranger safe. Now every decision was being made by strangers. But the problem was that Ranger's body was telling a story Ethan could no longer control. Dr. Bennett gave the injection. Ranger barely reacted. Maya watched him closely. Within several minutes, his shoulders relaxed. His breathing became slower. He lowered his head onto the blanket. Ethan stared. I haven't seen him sleep like that in months. Maya looked at him. Then why didn't you bring him sooner? Ethan did not answer. That silence was enough. Dr. Bennett looked at the medical file. Who was the behavior specialist? Ethan hesitated. Dr. Laura Mercer. Seattle. Yes. Do you have her contact information? I can find it. Good. Why? Because we need the records. Ethan's expression changed. What records? Everything. Her evaluation. Medication instructions. Follow-up notes. I don't have all of them. Where are they? I don't know. Maya looked at him. You don't know? I changed phones. That doesn't erase medical records. I didn't keep them. Dr. Bennett sighed. We will contact the clinic. Ethan's shoulders tightened. Don't. Dr. Bennett looked at him. Why? Because I don't want them involved. Why? Ethan looked toward Ranger. Because they already decided I couldn't handle him. Maya understood. Did they tell you that? They suggested surrendering him. The room went quiet. To a rehabilitation program, Ethan added. Maya looked at Ranger. What did you do? I refused. Why? Because he was mine. The words came quickly. Then Ethan's voice softened. He was all I had left. Maya did not know what to say. There were some sentences that were not arguments. They were wounds. Ethan sat down. He stared at the floor. When the others died, he was the one thing that came back with me. Maya looked at Ranger. The dog had closed his eyes again. Ethan continued. People kept telling me to let him go. Why? Because they said he needed a different home. And you disagreed. I knew him. Maya nodded slowly. But knowing someone isn't always enough to help them. Ethan looked at her. That sentence hurt. She could see it. But he did not become angry. Instead, he asked quietly. Then what should I have done? Maya took a breath. Asked for help sooner. Ethan looked down. I thought I was asking for help. Dr. Bennett spoke gently. Maybe you were. She picked up the medical record. But you stopped when the help became difficult. Ethan closed his eyes. No one spoke for several seconds. Then Ranger suddenly lifted his head. His eyes moved toward the hallway. Maya looked in the same direction. A cart rolled past outside. The wheels made a squeaking sound. Ranger's body immediately stiffened. Maya stood. Easy. The dog began breathing quickly. The cart squeaked again. Ranger moved backward. His injured leg slipped. Maya caught him before he fell. Ethan stood too. Ranger. The dog looked at him. Down. Ranger froze. Maya felt the tension in his body. Don't command him. He needs to settle. He's already frightened. Ethan took one step forward. Ranger backed away. Maya raised her hand. Stop. Ethan stopped. The cart disappeared down the hallway. The sound faded. Ranger's breathing remained fast. Maya crouched beside him. She waited. No command. No direction. No pressure. Just silence. Slowly Ranger looked at her. She blinked once. The dog lowered his head. Then he sat. Ethan stared. You didn't tell him to sit. No. He just did it. Maya nodded. Because he wanted to. Ethan looked at Ranger for a long time. Something about that seemed to reach him. Maybe for the first time, he was seeing the difference between obedience and trust. Ranger had obeyed him for years. But obedience had not made Ranger feel safe. Trust was different. Trust gave the dog a choice. And choices were something Ranger had almost never been allowed to have. If this story is showing you that strength is not always about control, take a moment to support the channel. Hit like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to hear that lesson too. Dr. Bennett returned to the computer. We need to document everything. Ethan looked at her. Everything. Every injury. Why? Because we need a complete medical record. Ethan nodded reluctantly. Maya helped Ranger stand. He was still weak. Dr. Bennett examined the pressure wounds around his neck and shoulders. Some were old. Some were newer. There were also small scars on his front legs. These are consistent with repeated contact against a hard surface, she said. Ethan looked away. His crate. Maya stopped. What? His crate. How long was he in it? At night. How many hours? Sometimes 6. Sometimes. Ethan looked uncomfortable. More when I had work. Maya stared at him. How much more? I don't know. Dr. Bennett looked at Ranger. Was the crate large enough for him to stand and turn? Yes. Lie down comfortably? Yes. Walk? No. Maya closed her eyes for a second. That explained the strange marks. The missing muscle. The worn claws. The pressure injuries. But there was still one question. Why would you crate a dog with a damaged hip for long periods? Ethan answered quietly. Because he kept destroying things. What things? Doors. Windows. 1. Furniture. Yes. Did he hurt himself? Sometimes. So you put him in the crate to keep him safe? Yes. Maya looked at Ranger. I understand the reason. Ethan looked at her. But the solution may have made the problem worse. Ethan said nothing. Dr. Bennett continued the examination. Ranger suddenly turned his head. He looked at Ethan. Then at Maya. Then back at Ethan. For several seconds, he seemed caught between them. Maya wondered what he remembered. Perhaps a younger version of Ethan. A younger version of himself. A time before retirement. Before the house. Before the pacing. Before the crate. Before fear became part of every room. Then Ethan said something that made Maya look up. There was one night. What happened? Ethan swallowed. He broke the crate. Maya frowned. How? I don't know. Where was he? In the garage. Why? Because I was trying to sleep. Maya stared at him. What happened after he broke out? Ethan's face became pale. He ran. Where? Outside. Did you find him? 3 hours later. Where? Ethan looked at Ranger. At the old training field. Maya felt a chill. How did he get there? I don't know. The field is several miles away. I know. Was he injured? Ethan nodded. His paws were bleeding. Anything else? Ethan hesitated. His hip was worse after that. Maya looked at the X-ray again. The story was becoming clearer. But there was still a missing piece. Why had Ranger run toward the old training field? Why had he chosen that place? And what had happened there? Ethan looked toward the window. I found him lying beside the old obstacle course. Maya said nothing. He wouldn't come to me. How did you get him? I sat down. Then, he came over. Maya looked at Ranger. The dog was asleep now. Ethan's voice became quieter. That was the first time I realized he wasn't afraid of me. Maya looked at him. What did you realize? Ethan swallowed. He was afraid of what I had become. The words hung in the room. Dr. Bennett slowly looked up. Maya did too. Ethan stared at Ranger. I thought I was protecting him. His voice cracked. But maybe I was only protecting myself. Ranger opened his eyes. For a moment he looked directly at Ethan. Then he closed them again. Outside, the rain finally began to weaken. But inside the clinic, the hardest part of the night was only beginning. Because the next person who entered that examination room would bring information from Ranger's past. And those records would reveal that the injuries were not the only thing everyone had misunderstood. The real mystery was why Ranger had been released from military care in the first place. And when Maya saw the missing page from his retirement file, she would realize that someone had removed a warning that could have changed everything. The next morning, the rain had finally stopped. A thin layer of sunlight appeared through the clouds, but inside the veterinary hospital, nobody was thinking about the weather. Ranger was still asleep. He had spent most of the night connected to fluids, his body slowly recovering from dehydration. His breathing was calmer now, and the constant tension in his muscles had eased. Maya entered the treatment room just after sunrise. She expected to find Ranger standing. Instead, he was lying on the blanket with his head resting beside the water bowl. For several seconds, Maya simply watched him. The dog looked different. Not healthier yet. Just quieter. There was no leash pulling against his neck. No metal muzzle. No commands. No one telling him where to stand. He was finally allowed to sleep. Maya checked his breathing. Then she gently placed a hand near his shoulder. Ranger opened one eye. It's me, she whispered. His tail moved once. Maya smiled. Good morning, soldier. Ranger slowly lifted his head. Then he looked toward the door. Maya understood. He was waiting for Ethan. But Ethan had not returned. Maya checked her phone. There were no messages. She looked at the clock. Almost 8. At 9, Dr. Bennett entered. How is he? Better. Any vomiting? No. Water. He drank twice. Food. Not yet. Dr. Bennett nodded. That's okay for now. Maya looked toward the hallway. Ethan hasn't called. Dr. Bennett paused. Maybe he needs time. Maya looked at Ranger. Ranger doesn't understand time. No. He understands absence. Dr. Bennett gave her a thoughtful look. You're getting attached. Maya smiled faintly. Maybe. You know what happens when you get attached to difficult cases. They stop being difficult cases. They become personal. Maya looked at Ranger. Sometimes that's the only way they survive. Before Dr. Bennett could answer, the front doors opened. A woman entered carrying a thick brown envelope. She was in her early 50s, wearing a gray coat and carrying a leather folder under one arm. She walked directly toward the reception desk. I'm looking for Dr. Bennett. Maya stepped into the hallway. That's me. The woman introduced herself. My name is Naomi Hayes. I'm a former military veterinary officer. Dr. Bennett's expression changed. You know Ranger? Naomi looked toward the treatment room. Yes. Maya immediately became alert. How? Naomi held up the envelope. I worked with him before his retirement. Dr. Bennett looked at the folder. What is this? Records. His military records? Part of them. Maya looked at Naomi. Why part? Naomi hesitated. Because some of the original documents were never transferred. Dr. Bennett frowned. Why not? Naomi looked toward the treatment room again. That's exactly what I'm here to discuss. They entered the treatment room. Ranger immediately lifted his head. The moment he saw Naomi, his ears moved forward. He did not growl. He did not retreat. Instead, he slowly stood. Naomi stopped several feet away. Hello, Ranger. The dog's tail moved. Maya looked surprised. You remember her? Naomi smiled sadly. He remembers almost everyone who treated him kindly. She looked at the scars around his face. Oh, Ranger. Her voice broke slightly. Ranger walked toward her. Naomi crouched. She held out her hand. He sniffed it. Then he pressed his head against her palm. Naomi closed her eyes. I'm sorry. Maya watched. You knew he was injured. Naomi looked up. Yes. How bad was it? Not this bad. Dr. Bennett opened the folder. His current X-rays show severe deterioration. Naomi nodded. His retirement examination was not normal. Maya stared at her. What do you mean? Naomi opened the first document. There was a recommendation for continued orthopedic monitoring. Dr. Bennett took the paper. That's not in his file. I know. Maya leaned closer. What else? Naomi turned another page. He was also showing signs of severe stress. Behavioral problems? Yes. Was he considered dangerous? No. Maya looked at Ranger. Then why was he described as aggressive? Naomi's expression hardened. He wasn't. Silence. What? Dr. Bennett asked. Naomi pointed toward the file. The official assessment described him as highly stressed, hypervigilant, and resistant to unfamiliar handling. Maya looked at the page. There was no word saying dangerous. No statement saying he should be permanently muzzled. No recommendation that he could not live safely with a family. Instead, the report recommended a quiet home, limited exposure to loud noises, structured rehabilitation, and regular veterinary follow-up. Dr. Bennett looked at Naomi. Who changed the wording? Naomi did not answer. Who? I don't know. Maya looked at the document. Someone made him sound dangerous. Naomi nodded. Yes. Ranger lowered himself onto the blanket. His eyes remained on Naomi. Maya noticed his breathing had become slightly faster. Why would anyone do that? Naomi closed the folder. Because the organization wanted the retirement process completed. Dr. Bennett stared at her. Explain. The unit was reducing its working dog program. And older dogs were being retired quickly. To save money? Partly. Naomi hesitated. But there was another issue. What issue? Liability. Maya understood. If a military dog was officially documented as injured or psychologically unstable, transferring him could create questions. Naomi nodded. Exactly. Dr. Bennett looked at Ranger. So they changed the language. Not officially. Then how? Naomi tapped the folder. Some of the behavioral notes disappeared. Maya felt a chill. Disappeared? Yes. From the file. From the transfer packet. Dr. Bennett looked through the papers. Do you have the original? Naomi hesitated. I have a copy. Where? At home. Why didn't you bring it? Because I wasn't sure I should. Maya looked at her. What changed your mind? Naomi looked at Ranger. Seeing him again. The dog raised his head. Naomi continued. I heard he was in trouble. From who? Someone at the old base. When? 2 days ago. Maya frowned. How did they know he was here? Naomi looked at Ethan's empty chair. I don't know. The room became quiet. Then Ranger suddenly stood. He stared toward the hallway. His body became rigid. Maya followed his gaze. A man in a dark jacket had entered the clinic. He stood near the reception desk. Ranger began trembling. Maya immediately noticed. Who is that? Naomi turned. Her face changed. I don't know. Dr. Bennett looked toward the reception area. The man spoke with Tessa. I need to see Ranger. Tessa shook her head. Are you family? No. Then I need authorization. The man showed her an identification card. Tessa read it. Her expression became uncertain. Maya stepped closer to the door. Ranger's breathing became faster. Naomi whispered, "Don't let him near the dog." Maya looked at her. "Who is he?" "I don't know." "Then how do you know?" Naomi stared at the man. "Because I've seen people like him before." The man looked toward the treatment hallway. His eyes met Maya's. He started walking. Maya stepped into the hallway. "Can I help you?" "I'm here for Ranger." "Who are you?" He gave his name. Marcus Hill. Relationship to Ranger? Administrative. Maya frowned. "That's not a relationship." He showed her another document. This animal was issued to Ethan Cross under a temporary custody agreement. Maya read the paper. She looked up. Ranger was transferred permanently. Not according to this document. Dr. Bennett stepped into the hallway. "Who are you?" Marcus repeated his name. "I represent the organization that originally owned the dog." Naomi came behind Dr. Bennett. "That's not true." Marcus turned. His expression changed. "Dr. Hayes." Naomi crossed her arms. "You don't represent the military. I represent the contractor." "The contractor doesn't own Ranger." Marcus smiled. "That's debatable." Maya felt Ranger move behind her. The dog was trying to make himself smaller. She looked back. His ears were pinned. His body was shaking. She turned toward Marcus. "You need to leave." Marcus looked at her. "I'm not here to argue." "Then why are you here?" "To collect the dog." "No." He looked toward Dr. Bennett. "The animal is still considered government property." Dr. Bennett shook her head. "That is not how retired working dogs are handled." Marcus's voice became colder. "You're interfering with a legal transfer." Maya stepped forward. "He is a patient." Marcus looked at Ranger. "He's an asset." That single word changed the room. Maya felt anger rise inside her. Ranger was not an asset. He was a living animal. A veteran. A patient. A frightened dog who had spent years protecting people. She looked at Marcus. "He's under medical care. You don't have authority to prevent transfer." Dr. Bennett answered. "I absolutely have authority to prevent anyone from removing an unstable patient from my hospital." Marcus's expression hardened. "I'll return with the proper paperwork." "Bring it." He turned. Then he stopped. He looked at Ranger one last time. The dog immediately backed away. Marcus walked out. The automatic doors closed behind him. Maya turned to Ranger. His entire body was shaking. She crouched. "He's gone." Ranger looked toward the door. Maya waited. Slowly he approached her. She placed her hand on the floor. He lowered his head. Naomi watched silently. Then she said something that made Maya's heart sink. "That man was involved in Ranger's transfer." Dr. Bennett looked at her. "How involved?" "Very." "How?" Naomi opened the folder again. "He signed the transfer paperwork." Maya looked at the door. "Then he knows what happened." Naomi nodded. "Maybe. What aren't you telling us?" Naomi looked at Ranger. His final military evaluation was completed 3 days before his retirement. Dr. Bennett asked, "And?" "He failed it." Maya stared at her. "Failed how?" "He couldn't complete the endurance test." The room became silent. "Why?" "His hip." Maya looked at the X-rays. "So they knew?" Naomi nodded. "They knew. And they still retired him without treatment." Naomi looked down. "Yes. Why?" Naomi's eyes filled with sadness. "Because treatment would have delayed the transfer." Dr. Bennett's voice became quiet. "How long did they know?" "At least 6 weeks." Maya looked at Ranger. 6 weeks. 6 weeks of pain. 6 weeks of running. 6 weeks of being expected to perform. 6 weeks of being treated like a working machine after his body had already started breaking down. Naomi turned another page. There was one more note. What note? He was recommended for immediate rest. Did he get it? No. Maya's eyes narrowed. Who overruled the recommendation? Naomi looked at the signature. She didn't answer. Dr. Bennett took the page. The signature belonged to a senior operations officer. But beneath it was another name. A veterinary supervisor. Maya recognized the name. That's impossible. Naomi looked at her. Why? Because that veterinarian retired before Ranger's final transfer. Naomi nodded. Exactly. Maya looked at Dr. Bennett. So someone used an old authorization. Or copied the signature. Nobody spoke. Ranger suddenly made a small sound. Maya turned. He was staring at the papers. His ears were back. His eyes were fixed on Naomi's hands. Naomi slowly lowered the folder. It's okay. Ranger approached. He sniffed the paperwork. Then he stepped backward. Maya noticed something. He was reacting to the smell. Ink. Paper? Something else? She looked at Naomi. Where did you get these? From an old storage box. When? Last night. Maya looked at Ranger. Was there anything else with them? Naomi hesitated. Yes. What? A photograph. She reached into her bag. The photograph was old and slightly damaged. It showed Ranger when he was younger. He stood beside 3 soldiers. One of them was Ethan. Another was Naomi. And the third man was Marcus Hill. Maya stared at the photograph. Ranger had been standing proudly between them. His ears were up. His body was strong. His eyes were bright. He looked like a completely different dog. Naomi pointed toward the third man. Marcus wasn't just an administrator. Maya looked at her. What was he? Naomi took a breath. He was Ranger's original handler before Ethan. Maya stared at the photograph. Then she looked toward the door. Marcus had not come to collect a random retired military dog. He had come looking for a dog he already knew. A dog who was afraid of him. And suddenly Ranger's reaction made sense. The trembling. The retreat. The frozen body. The panic. Ranger remembered. Whatever had happened between them had never truly ended. Maya looked at Naomi. What did Marcus do to him? Naomi's face became pale. I don't know. You do know something. Naomi remained silent. Maya waited. Finally, Naomi whispered. I know that Ranger was removed from Marcus's care after an incident. What incident? Naomi looked at the sleeping dog. He was found injured. Maya's heart dropped. How? Naomi's eyes moved toward the old photograph. Someone said he fell. Maya looked at the damaged hip on the X-ray. And you don't believe that? Naomi shook her head. No. The room became completely silent. Ranger opened his eyes. He looked at Maya, then at the photograph. And then very slowly he turned his head away. As if he did not want to remember. Maya understood something then. The medical mystery was only one part of Ranger's story. His body carried injuries. But his fear carried memories. And those memories were pointing directly toward a man who had just walked out of the clinic. Marcus Hill. The man who wanted Ranger back. The man Ranger feared. And the man whose name appeared on the old photograph. Maya looked at Dr. Bennett. We need to protect him. Dr. Bennett nodded. We do. Naomi closed the folder. And we need to find the original report. Where? Naomi looked at the photograph again. At the old training facility. Maya frowned. Why there? Because that's where the incident happened. Ranger suddenly lifted his head. His eyes fixed on the window. Maya followed his gaze. Somewhere outside, an engine started. Ranger trembled. But this time Maya understood. He wasn't afraid of the sound itself. He was remembering something. Something that had happened years ago. Something that nobody had been willing to explain. And if they wanted to save Ranger completely, they would have to uncover the truth. Even if the truth led them back to the place where his life had changed forever. By late afternoon, Ranger was strong enough to stand without help for several minutes. It was a small improvement, but to Maya it felt enormous. The previous day, he had barely been able to walk across the examination room. Now he could place a little more weight on his injured leg. His pain was still serious. His hip was still damaged. His body was still weak. But something else had changed. He was beginning to trust the people around him. Maya sat beside his kennel while he ate a small portion of soft food. He stopped after a few bites. Maya did not encourage him. She simply waited. After a minute, Ranger returned to the bowl. He ate 3 more bites. Then 4. Dr. Bennett watched from the doorway. That's progress. Maya smiled. He's eating. He's also choosing to eat. Maya looked at Ranger. That's even better. Ranger finished the small meal and rested his head on his paws. Maya checked his water. Then she looked at the clock. We need to talk to Ethan. Dr. Bennett nodded. Agreed. They called him. No answer. They called again. Still nothing. Maya left a message. Mr. Cross, this is Maya from the clinic. Ranger is stable. Please call us when you receive this. She ended the call. Naomi stood near the window. I'll try another number. She made the call. Nothing. Dr. Bennett looked concerned. Maybe he's avoiding the clinic. Maya shook her head. Why? Because he knows Ranger is safe. Maya looked at her. Or because something happened. Before anyone could respond, Tessa rushed into the room. There is a problem. Dr. Bennett turned. What happened? The police are outside. Maya's heart skipped. Why? They say someone reported the dog as stolen property. Naomi's face became serious. Marcus. Dr. Bennett walked toward the reception area. Maya stayed beside Ranger. The dog had lifted his head. He could sense the tension. She lowered her voice. It's okay. The front door opened. 2 police officers entered. One was a woman in her 40s. The other was a younger man carrying a small notebook. The female officer introduced herself as Detective Sarah Collins. We received a report concerning a military working dog. Dr. Bennett nodded. Ranger. Yes. Is he here? Yes. Can we see him? Dr. Bennett hesitated. He is a medical patient. We understand. The detective looked at Naomi. Are you Dr. Hayes? Yes. Could we speak privately? Naomi nodded. Maya remained in the treatment room. She could hear voices from the hallway. The conversation was quiet at first. Then the detective's voice became clearer. We have a report claiming that Mr. Cross unlawfully retained the dog. Naomi answered. That's false. Do you have documentation? Yes. May I see it? Paper moved. Maya looked at Ranger. His eyes were open. His ears moved toward the hallway. She sat closer. Don't worry. Ranger slowly rested his head against her knee. Maya froze. He had never done that before. She gently placed her hand on his neck. The door opened. Detective Collins entered. She looked at Ranger. Is this him? Yes. The detective stayed several feet away. She noticed the scars, the missing muscle, the bandage around his leg. What happened to him? Dr. Bennett answered. Severe orthopedic disease, dehydration, muscle wasting, and multiple untreated wounds. The detective frowned. Do you believe he was abused? Dr. Bennett paused. I believe he has suffered significant neglect. Maya looked at Ranger. The detective crouched slightly. Does he respond to his name? Ranger looked at her. Maya said softly, Ranger. The dog lifted his head. The detective smiled. Good. She looked at Maya. Can he walk? Short distances. Can he be moved? Not safely without medical supervision. The detective nodded. I won't remove him. Maya felt relieved. Thank you. The detective looked at Naomi. We found something interesting. Naomi's expression tightened. What? Mr. Hill filed the report. I knew it. He claims Ranger was transferred to Mr. Cross under a temporary agreement. Naomi shook her head. That isn't what happened. Do you have proof? Naomi opened the folder. Yes. The detective read the papers. Her eyebrows rose. Where did you get these? They were part of the original veterinary file. Why weren't they included in the transfer packet? Naomi looked at her. That's what we're trying to find out. The detective continued reading. There's a recommendation for long-term rehabilitation. Yes. Another for limited exercise. Yes. And another saying he should not be returned to active service. Naomi nodded. Correct. The detective looked toward Ranger. Then why was he transferred as healthy? Nobody answered. Maya suddenly noticed something on the final page. A handwritten note. She stepped closer. What does that say? Naomi looked. Her face changed. I've never seen that. Dr. Bennett leaned over. The note was written in black ink. It contained only one sentence. Do not let Hill regain custody. Maya stared. The detective read it again. Who wrote this? Naomi shook her head. I don't know. Can you recognize the handwriting? Naomi looked at the page for several seconds. Then she whispered, yes. Everyone looked at her. Whose is it? Naomi pointed toward the signature. Mine. Maya stared. You wrote this. Naomi looked confused. I don't remember. Detective Collins looked at her carefully. When was this written? Naomi shook her head. I don't know. Could someone have copied your handwriting? Possibly. But the note is in your style. Naomi stared at the page. Something seemed to return to her memory. I wrote something. What? I remember being angry. Why? Naomi closed her eyes. I was told Ranger had been injured. By whom? Marcus. Maya looked at Ranger. What did he tell you? He said Ranger fell during training. Did you believe him? No. Why? Naomi opened her eyes. Because Ranger had bruises that didn't match a fall. The room became silent. Maya felt her stomach tighten. What kind of bruises? Multiple areas. Back. Yes. Chest. Yes. Neck. Naomi nodded. Maya remembered the pressure wounds. The damaged collar area. The fear of hands. Everything was beginning to connect. Dr. Bennett asked, did you document those injuries? I tried. What happened? My report disappeared. Detective Collins looked at her. Disappeared. Yes. From where? The medical system. Was there a backup? Maybe. Where? Naomi thought for a moment. The old training facility. Maya looked at Ranger. He had lifted his head. His eyes were fixed on Naomi. Can we go there? Dr. Bennett looked at her. Not with Ranger. Maya shook her head. I didn't mean him. Naomi nodded. I'll go. Detective Collins immediately said, I'm coming too. Dr. Bennett looked at Maya. You stay here. Maya nodded. She knew Ranger needed someone he trusted. But before Naomi left, she walked toward the kennel. Ranger watched her. She stopped outside. I'm going to find the truth. Ranger's ears lifted. Naomi placed her hand against the kennel door. I promise. Ranger stepped forward. His nose touched the metal. Then he sat. Maya watched them. It felt like Ranger understood. Perhaps not the words, but the intention. Naomi turned away. The detective followed her. The doors closed. Maya returned to Ranger. Okay, soldier. Ranger looked at her. Now it's just us. For the next hour, the clinic became quiet again. Maya changed his bandage. She moved slowly around his injured hip. Ranger did not resist. He even rested his head against her arm. Then something unexpected happened. Ranger began making a low sound. At first Maya thought it was a growl. She stopped. But the sound was different. It was soft. Almost like a whimper. Maya looked at him. Are you trying to tell me something? Ranger lifted his head. He looked toward the hallway. Then toward the door. Then back at Maya. She followed his gaze. Nothing. Ranger stood. He walked to the corner. He sniffed the floor. Then he scratched once. Maya frowned. What is it? Ranger scratched again. She looked closer. A small piece of black plastic was caught beneath the cabinet. Maya picked it up. It looked like part of an old electronic device. She turned it over. There was a tiny label. A number. She didn't recognize it. Then Ranger began whining. Maya looked at him. He was staring at the object. She placed it on the counter. Ranger moved closer. His nose touched the air. Then he backed away. Maya felt uneasy. She called Dr. Bennett. Doctor, I found something. What? A piece of plastic. Ranger reacted to it. Dr. Bennett examined it. It could be from a tracking device. Maya stared. A tracker? Possibly. Why would someone track him? Dr. Bennett looked toward the hallway. I don't know. Maya looked at Ranger. The dog was watching the object. His eyes were wide. Suddenly, he turned toward the door. A sound came from outside. A vehicle stopped. Ranger froze. Maya's heart began beating faster. She moved toward the window. A black SUV was parked across the street. Nobody got out. Ranger stared at it. Maya lowered the blinds. The dog remained frozen. Easy. She moved back to him. His body was shaking. Maya looked at the clock. It had been almost exactly 1 hour since Naomi and the detective left. Then her phone rang. It was Detective Collins. Maya answered. Hello. The detective's voice was urgent. Do not let anyone take Ranger. Maya looked toward the window. Why? We found the old records. What do they say? There was a pause. Then Detective Collins spoke. They say Ranger wasn't injured during training. Maya's stomach dropped. What happened? We're still reading everything. Tell me. The detective took a breath. Ranger was injured during a private demonstration. Demonstration of what? Behavior conditioning. Maya looked at Ranger. What kind? The detective's voice became quieter. The kind that was never supposed to be used on a retired dog. Maya felt cold. What does that mean? It means someone was trying to break him. Maya stared at Ranger. The dog looked back at her. And suddenly every reaction made sense. The fear of hands. The panic when the leash tightened. The terror of metal sounds. The freezing when someone gave a sharp command. The desperate need to escape. Someone had trained those reactions into him. And someone had tried to hide the evidence. Detective Collins continued. There's more. What? The report names the person responsible. Maya whispered, who? The detective hesitated. Then she said, Marcus Hill. Maya looked toward the window. The black SUV was still there. And now she understood why Ranger had been shaking. Marcus wasn't simply trying to reclaim a retired military dog. He was trying to recover the one living witness who could expose what had happened. Maya moved closer to Ranger. She locked the treatment room door. Then she called Dr. Bennett. Doctor, we have a problem. Outside, the black SUV's engine started. And this time, it began moving toward the clinic. The black SUV stopped directly in front of the clinic. Maya stood behind the treatment room door, watching through the narrow glass panel. Ranger stood beside her. His body was stiff. His ears were pushed back. He was not barking. He was not growling. He was simply staring. Maya knew that silence. It was the silence of an animal preparing for something it had already learned to fear. She placed one hand near his shoulder. You are safe. Ranger looked at her. For a moment his eyes softened. Then the front doors opened. Marcus Hill walked inside. This time he was not alone. A second man followed him. He carried a folder and wore a dark suit. Maya immediately called Dr. Bennett. He's here. Who? Marcus. Dr. Bennett's voice became serious. Keep Ranger inside. I'm coming. Maya ended the call. The receptionist stood between Marcus and the treatment hallway. You can't go back there. Marcus showed her a document. I'm authorized. Tessa looked at it. I've already told you that the doctor must approve any transfer. Marcus leaned closer. Then get the doctor. I already called her. Good. He stepped back. Maya watched him through the glass. Ranger suddenly moved backward. His claws scraped the floor. Maya turned toward him. Look at me. Ranger looked at her. Not him. The dog slowly turned his head toward Maya. She crouched. That's it. The second man entered the reception area. Marcus whispered something to him. Maya couldn't hear it. But Ranger could. The dog's entire body began trembling. Maya looked at the second man. Then she noticed something. The man carried a metal case. Ranger stared at it. His breathing became rapid. Maya's instincts told her something was wrong. She locked the treatment room door. A few seconds later, Dr. Bennett arrived. She stepped beside Maya. What's happening? They brought another man. Who? I don't know. Dr. Bennett looked through the glass. Marcus saw her. He walked toward the hallway. Dr. Bennett stepped out. You need to leave. Marcus remained calm. We have legal documentation. I don't care what documentation you have. Ranger is under medical treatment. He is government property. That's not your decision. The second man opened his folder. My name is Victor Lane. I'm an animal transport specialist. Dr. Bennett looked at him. Where is your veterinary authorization? I have transfer authorization. That's not enough. Marcus interrupted. We're taking him now. Dr. Bennett shook her head. No. Marcus's expression hardened. You are interfering with a lawful transfer. I'm protecting a patient. You don't have the authority. I do while he is under my care. Marcus looked toward the treatment room. His eyes met Ranger's. The dog immediately backed away. Maya stepped between them. Stop looking at him. Marcus looked at her. Move. No. You're a technician. I'm the person he trusts. Marcus laughed quietly. You think he trusts you? Ranger moved closer to Maya. Marcus saw it. His face changed. You have no idea what that dog is capable of. Maya answered, maybe you don't either. For several seconds, Marcus said nothing. Then Victor opened the metal case. Ranger panicked. He tried to move away. His injured leg slipped. Maya caught him. Close that. Victor ignored her. He removed a small electronic device. The moment Ranger saw it, he began shaking violently. Maya looked at the device. What is that? Marcus answered, training equipment. Put it away. It was used with him before. That's exactly why it needs to leave. Victor moved toward the door. Dr. Bennett stepped in front of him. You are not bringing that device near my patient. Victor stopped. Marcus's voice became cold. Move. No. Ranger suddenly made a sharp sound. Maya turned. The dog was staring at the device. His breathing was almost out of control. Maya reached for him. Ranger. He didn't respond. She lowered herself to the floor. Ranger, look at me. His eyes moved toward her. Good. She kept her voice steady. You're here. The dog took one step. That's right. Another step. Come to me. Ranger moved toward her. He was shaking. But he was moving. Maya held out her hand. He pressed his head against it. Marcus watched. His expression was difficult to read. Then Detective Collins entered the clinic. Mr. Hill. Marcus turned. The detective held a file in her hand. You need to step away from the animal. Marcus frowned. On what authority? On the authority of an active investigation. What investigation? Animal cruelty and falsification of medical records. The room became silent. Victor closed the metal case. Marcus looked at Detective Collins. That's ridiculous. Is it? She opened the file. We found the original behavioral report. Marcus's expression changed. Detective Collins continued. It states that Ranger was injured during a private conditioning demonstration. Marcus said nothing. It also states that you were present. I was his handler. At the time of the incident. Yes. And the report says you were removed from the training area. Marcus's face tightened. Because I disagreed with the veterinarian. Detective Collins looked at the next page. No. She held up the document. It says you were removed because you continued the exercise after the veterinarian ordered you to stop. Marcus's silence became an answer. Maya looked at Ranger. The dog was still pressed against her. Detective Collins continued. The report says Ranger suffered injuries to his hip, back, and neck. Marcus shook his head. He fell. The report says otherwise. It was an accident. Then why did you sign a statement saying the exercise never happened? Marcus stared at her. I didn't. Detective Collins held up another page. Your signature is here. Marcus looked at the paper. Then at Naomi. She had entered the clinic behind the detective. Marcus's face became pale. Naomi spoke quietly. You remember now? Marcus looked at her. You shouldn't have kept those records. Naomi answered. You shouldn't have tried to erase them. Maya felt Ranger press harder against her. Marcus looked toward the dog. You don't understand. Naomi stepped forward. No. You don't understand. What? He remembers. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Naomi continued. Every sound. Every command. Every room. Marcus looked away. Detective Collins stepped closer. Mr. Hill, I need you to come with me. Marcus refused. You're making a mistake. Then explain the records. I already did. Not to me. Marcus looked toward Ranger again. The dog was staring at him. For several seconds neither moved. Then Ranger made a sound. Not a growl. A whimper. Marcus looked away first. Maya noticed. She had expected anger. Instead she saw fear. The same fear Ranger had shown. Marcus had not forgotten either. Detective Collins escorted him toward the front doors. Before leaving, Marcus turned. That dog won't survive without me. Maya answered. He nearly didn't survive with you. Marcus stopped. For a moment his face showed anger. Then the doors closed. Silence returned. Ranger's breathing slowly became calmer. Maya stayed beside him. Naomi walked over. It's over. Maya shook her head. No. She looked at Ranger. It's only starting. Dr. Bennett examined him again. His heart rate was high. His paws were trembling. But he was conscious. He was safe. For now. Detective Collins returned after speaking with Marcus outside. There is enough evidence to prevent him from taking Ranger. Maya nodded. What happens next? That depends on the investigation. Naomi asked, Can Ranger stay here? Dr. Bennett answered immediately. Yes. How long? As long as necessary. Maya looked relieved. Ranger slowly lay down. Then something unexpected happened. He reached one paw toward Maya. She stared at it. Ranger had never done that before. She placed her hand over his paw. His eyes closed. Naomi smiled sadly. He has chosen you. Maya shook her head. He chose safety. Naomi nodded. Sometimes that's the same thing. Over the next few days, Ranger's condition slowly improved. His appetite returned. His hydration stabilized. He began walking short distances. The veterinary team created a special rehabilitation plan. No forced running. No sarcomans. No metal muzzle unless absolutely necessary. No long periods inside a crate. Instead, Ranger was given a quiet room. Soft bedding. Short walks. Gentle exercises. And choices. If he wanted to stop, he could stop. If he wanted to move away, nobody followed him. If he wanted contact, someone waited. Maya became part of his daily routine. Every morning, she sat beside him. She never demanded anything. She simply waited. On the fifth morning, Ranger walked toward her before she called him. He placed his head against her chest. Maya closed her eyes. Good morning. Ranger's tail moved. The small gesture made everyone smile. Dr. Bennett watched from the doorway. He is changing. Maya nodded. He feels safe. There's more. What? His body is responding to rehabilitation. Maya smiled. Does that mean surgery isn't necessary? Not yet. That's good. Dr. Bennett nodded. But his hip damage is permanent. Maya looked at Ranger. He can still have a life. Yes. But different. Much different. Ranger walked slowly toward the hallway. Maya followed. They reached the small rehabilitation room. Inside was a shallow water tank. Ranger stopped. He looked at it suspiciously. Maya smiled. Not today. Ranger looked relieved. The therapist laughed. He understands more than people think. Maya answered. That's what everyone keeps getting wrong. The first water session happened 2 days later. Ranger was nervous. He placed one paw into the water, then immediately pulled it out. Maya crouched beside him. No pressure. Ranger looked at her. She waited. He tried again. One paw. Then another. The water reached his ankles. He stopped. The therapist supported his body. Ranger looked at Maya. She smiled. You're okay. He took another step. Soon the water supported much of his weight. For the first time in months, Ranger could move without carrying all his weight on the damaged hip. He walked slowly, then a little faster. His eyes brightened. Maya laughed. Look at you. Ranger moved his tail. The therapist smiled. This is exactly what he needs. Over the next weeks, Ranger became stronger. He learned to walk without fear. He learned that hands could bring comfort instead of pain. He learned that a closed door did not always mean confinement. He learned that a command was not always followed by punishment. And most importantly, he learned that he could say no. If Maya reached toward him and he stepped away, she stopped. If he returned, she welcomed him. That small choice changed everything. Meanwhile, the investigation continued. Detective Collins discovered more documents. There had been another report. A second veterinarian had questioned Ranger's treatment before retirement. That veterinarian had recommended immediate removal from all physical training. The recommendation had been ignored. Then another document appeared. A payment record. Money had been transferred to a private training contractor. The same contractor Marcus Hill had worked with after leaving the military. The purpose of the payment was listed as behavioral assessment. But the dates matched the period when Ranger suffered his injuries. Maya stared at the document. So this wasn't just one person. Dr. Bennett nodded. Maybe not. Naomi looked at the report. Someone wanted the injuries hidden. Why? Because a failed working dog costs money. Maya looked at Ranger. He's not a failed dog. Naomi smiled. No. She looked at him. He was a successful dog who was failed by people. Those words stayed with Maya. A dog could save lives, carry fear, follow commands, protect people, and still be discarded when his body became inconvenient. But Ranger had survived. That mattered. One evening, Ethan finally returned. He stood outside the clinic doors for several minutes before entering. Maya saw him. Ranger saw him too. The dog lifted his head. Ethan stopped. For a moment, Maya worried Ranger would become frightened. Instead, Ranger stood. He walked toward the door. Ethan's eyes filled with tears. He crouched. Hey, buddy. Ranger stopped several feet away. Ethan did not reach for him. He waited. Ranger looked at Maya. Maya nodded. Ranger took one step. Then another. He approached Ethan. But instead of jumping into his arms, he simply stood there. Ethan whispered, I'm sorry. Ranger's tail moved once. Ethan wiped his face. I should have listened. Maya stepped back. This moment belonged to them. Ethan looked at Ranger. I thought I was protecting you. Ranger remained still. I was wrong. Ethan lowered his head. I was hurting too. Maya watched from a distance. Ethan continued. I didn't know how to stop. Ranger slowly moved closer. His nose touched Ethan's hand. Ethan began to cry. He did not grab him. He did not pull the leash. He simply let the dog decide. Ranger rested his forehead against Ethan's knee. Ethan closed his eyes. For several minutes, neither moved. Then Ranger walked back toward Maya. Ethan watched him go. There was sadness in his eyes, but also acceptance. He understood. Ranger did not belong to anyone anymore. He belonged to himself. If this part of Ranger's journey has touched you, take a moment to support the story. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who believes that healing begins when we finally give the wounded a choice. The following morning, the rehabilitation team received surprising news. Ranger had been approved for permanent retirement placement. But there was one condition. He could not return to Ethan's home. The medical team believed Ranger needed a stable environment without military triggers. Ethan agreed. It was painful, but he agreed. Maya was asked if she would consider becoming Ranger's permanent caregiver. She looked at the dog. Ranger looked back. She didn't answer immediately. She knew this would change her life. Ranger needed medical care. He needed patience. He needed rehabilitation. He needed someone who understood that his silence could mean fear, his growl could mean pain, and his retreat could mean trust had been broken. Maya looked at Dr. Bennett. What if I say yes? Dr. Bennett smiled. Then he'll have a home. Maya looked at Ranger. He walked toward her. Then he placed his head against her hand. Maya smiled. Okay. Ranger's tail moved. Let's go home. But before Ranger could leave the clinic, Detective Collins arrived with one final document. She placed it on the desk. We found the original retirement file. Maya opened it. There was one sentence at the bottom. It had been written by Naomi months before Ranger was retired. Maya read it aloud. Ranger is not dangerous. He is frightened, injured, and needs someone willing to listen. Maya looked at Ranger. Then she looked at Naomi. Naomi nodded. That was the truth. Maya closed the file. For years, people had looked at Ranger's scars and called him dangerous. They had seen his muzzle and assumed aggression. They had seen his fear and called it disobedience. They had seen his damaged body and called him a failed soldier. But they had missed the simplest truth. Ranger had never stopped being loyal. He had simply stopped believing that people were safe. And now, slowly, one day at a time, he was learning something new. People could be safe. Hands could be gentle. Doors could open. Pain could be treated. And retirement did not have to mean abandonment. It could mean freedom. Maya knelt beside him. Ranger placed his paw on her hand. She smiled. You don't have to be a soldier anymore. Ranger looked at her. You can just be Ranger. His tail moved slowly. And for the first time, there was no command waiting after the words. Only peace. The first morning Ranger woke up in Maya's home, he did something that surprised everyone. He stood beside the bedroom door. He did not bark. He did not scratch. He simply waited. Maya woke when she heard the soft sound of his claws moving across the wooden floor. She opened her eyes. Ranger was standing there. His head was lowered. His ears were relaxed. For a few seconds, Maya wondered if he wanted to go outside. She slowly sat up. Morning, Ranger. The dog looked at her. Then he took one small step forward. Maya smiled. Do you want to go out? Ranger's tail moved. She got out of bed. Ranger followed her into the hallway. There was no leash around his neck. No collar pressing against his skin. No command. He simply followed. When Maya opened the back door, Ranger stopped. The yard was quiet. Sunlight covered the grass. Ranger stepped outside. He sniffed the air. Then he walked slowly across the yard. Maya watched him. For the first time, Ranger was experiencing a home where nobody expected anything from him. He could walk. He could stop. He could sit. He could explore. He could rest. He could simply exist. Maya sat on the porch. Ranger eventually returned. He climbed the first step. Then the second. He stopped beside her. Maya looked at him. You like it? Ranger placed his head on her knee. She laughed softly. I'll take that as a yes. For several minutes they sat together. Then Maya noticed something. Ranger was looking toward the street. A truck had stopped outside. His body became tense. Maya immediately recognized the reaction. She did not tell him to stay. She did not grab him. She simply stood between him and the street. Ranger looked at her. The truck moved away. His muscles relaxed. Maya touched his shoulder. You're okay. Ranger breathed slowly. The moment passed. But Maya knew these moments would continue. Healing did not erase memories. It gave the mind new memories strong enough to compete with the old ones. Over the next month, Ranger made progress. He gained weight. His coat became healthier. His eyes became brighter. He started playing with a soft rubber ball. At first he only watched it. Then he touched it with his nose. One morning, Maya rolled it across the floor. Ranger followed it. He stopped, looked at Maya, then picked it up. Maya smiled. Bring it. Ranger froze. Maya immediately realized her mistake. The word sounded like a command. Ranger dropped the ball. His body stiffened. Maya crouched. Sorry. Ranger watched her. You don't have to. She pointed toward the ball. If you want it, it's yours. Ranger looked at the ball. Then he slowly picked it up again. He walked toward her. Maya smiled. Good choice. Ranger's tail moved. It was another small victory. But Ranger still had difficult days. Some nights, aircraft passed overhead. The sound would wake him instantly. He would pace around the house. Sometimes he would hide behind the sofa. Maya never forced him out. She sat nearby. She talked quietly. You're home. Ranger would look at her. Nothing is chasing you. Slowly he would settle. Other times, the sound of metal hitting the ground would make him freeze. Once a pan fell in the kitchen. The crash sent Ranger running into the corner. Maya found him trembling. She sat on the floor several feet away. She did not touch him. She waited. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Finally, Ranger crawled toward her. Maya opened her arms. He came closer. She gently placed one hand on his back. His trembling slowly stopped. These moments were not failures. They were part of healing. Ranger was learning that the present was different from the past. But the biggest challenge was still ahead. His hip. Dr. Bennett wanted another set of X-rays. The results were not good. The damage had stabilized, but the joint remained severely worn. There will be pain, Dr. Bennett said. How much? That depends on him. Can he live normally? Not like a young dog. Maya looked at Ranger. But comfortably? Yes. Will he need surgery? Possibly later. Maya nodded. What can I do now? Keep his weight controlled. Short walks. Low-impact exercise. No stairs whenever possible. Maya smiled. He's going to hate that last one. Dr. Bennett laughed. He doesn't need to like it. Maya looked at Ranger. He's going to have opinions. Ranger looked away. Everyone laughed. For the first time, his medical appointments did not feel like emergencies. They became routine. Routine was something Ranger needed. Same morning. Same food. Same walking path. Same sleeping area. Same voice. Same person. Predictability gave him confidence. Then one afternoon, Ethan visited again. This time he brought something. A wooden box. Maya opened the door. Ranger saw him. He remained calm. Ethan stood outside. I brought his things. Maya stepped aside. Kumein. Ethan entered slowly. He placed the box on the table. Inside were old photographs. A worn military blanket. A few medals. A faded toy. And Ranger's original harness. Maya picked up the harness. The leather was cracked. The metal clips were scratched. She looked at Ranger. He approached. He sniffed it. Then he stepped away. Maya put it back. Ethan looked at him. He doesn't want it. Maya nodded. Not yet. Ethan sat down. For a while, they said nothing. Then he looked at Maya. He's different. Yes. Better. Yes. Ethan smiled sadly. I'm glad. Ranger walked toward him. Ethan stayed still. The dog sniffed his hand. Then he sat beside him. Ethan looked down. Do you think he remembers everything? Maya answered honestly. I don't know. Ethan nodded. I remember. Maya looked at him. Then maybe you need to heal too. Ethan looked surprised. I'm not the patient. Maybe not here. He looked toward Ranger. For several seconds, Ethan said nothing. Then he whispered, I've been having nightmares. Maya understood. You should talk to someone. I tried. Try again. Ethan looked at her. What if I can't fix what I did? You can't. He looked hurt. But you can stop making it worse. Ethan nodded. That was enough for now. Ranger rested his head against Ethan's leg. Ethan closed his eyes. The visit lasted less than an hour. When Ethan left, Ranger watched through the window. He did not chase him. He did not panic. He simply watched. Maya placed a hand on his back. That's okay. Ranger looked at her. You don't have to hold on to everyone. The dog turned toward the house. Then he walked inside. Months passed. Ranger became stronger. He could walk farther. He could climb one low step. He could play for a few minutes without pain. His favorite activity became sitting in the garden. He would lie beneath a tree and watch birds. Sometimes he would fall asleep in the sunlight. Maya loved those moments. Because they showed how far he had come. The dog who once paced all night could now sleep for hours. The dog who once feared every hand could now ask for attention. The dog who once froze at commands could now make choices. And then came the day Maya had been waiting for. Ranger completed his first full rehabilitation walk. The distance was not impressive. Less than a mile. But for him, it was enormous. Maya walked beside him. They moved slowly. Ranger stopped several times. Each time, Maya stopped too. At the halfway point, Ranger looked tired. Maya crouched. We can go home. Ranger looked at the road ahead. Then he took another step. Maya smiled. Okay. They continued. When they reached home, Ranger walked directly to the garden. He lowered himself onto the grass. Maya sat beside him. You did it. Ranger looked at her. She laughed. I know. It wasn't a marathon. Ranger's tail moved. But it was yours. That evening, Maya received a phone call. It was Detective Collins. We have an update. Maya stood. What happened? Marcus Hill has been formally charged. Maya closed her eyes. For what? Animal cruelty, falsification of records, and unlawful interference with a protected retired working animal. Maya looked at Ranger. And the others? The investigation is continuing. Will the military cooperate? They have to. Maya nodded. Did you find out who changed the medical records? We found the person who authorized the altered transfer. Who? Detective Collins gave her the name. Maya recognized it from the file. A senior contractor official. And Marcus. He helped. Maya felt angry. What about the veterinarian who signed the final clearance? There was a pause. We found him. Where? He died 2 years ago. Maya was silent. Then how was his signature used? We're still investigating. Maya looked at Ranger. Will they ever tell us the whole truth? Detective Collins answered honestly. I don't know. The call ended. Maya sat beside Ranger. She looked at the dog. Sometimes people hide the truth because they're afraid of what it will cost them. Ranger rested his head against her leg. But you don't have to be afraid anymore. A soft breeze moved through the garden. Ranger closed his eyes. Maya looked toward the sky. She thought about everything he had survived. The training, the injuries, the fear, the neglect, the retirement, the betrayal, and yet he was still capable of trust. That was the part she could not understand. People had given him every reason to hate them, but he had chosen not to. Maybe that was what made him extraordinary. Not his strength, not his training, not his military record. His ability to trust again. That night, Maya prepared Ranger's dinner. He finished the entire bowl. Then he walked to the living room. A soft blanket waited near the sofa. He turned in a circle, then lay down. Maya switched off the light. Good night. Ranger lifted his head. Maya smiled. Sleep well. She walked toward her bedroom. Then she heard something. A soft tapping sound. She turned. Ranger was standing in the hallway. He looked at her. Maya waited. Do you want me to stay? Ranger walked toward her. He stopped beside her. Then he lay down. Maya sat on the floor. Ranger placed his head on her lap. She gently stroked his fur. You don't have to be alone. Ranger closed his eyes. For the first time, Maya understood something. Healing was not about forgetting. Ranger would probably never forget the sounds that frightened him. He might always react to certain smells, certain voices, certain objects, but he no longer had to face those memories alone. And that changed everything. If this story has stayed with you, don't let it end here. Tap like, subscribe to the channel, and share this story so more people can understand that even the strongest souls sometimes need someone to simply stay beside them. Weeks later, Ranger received another surprise. A letter arrived from the organization that had once trained him. It was not an apology. It was an invitation. They wanted him honored at a retirement ceremony. Maya read the letter twice. Then she looked at Ranger. Well, what do you think? Ranger stared at the envelope. Then he walked away. Maya laughed. That's a clear answer. But the ceremony could not be ignored. The investigation had brought public attention to Ranger's case. People wanted to see him. Some wanted to honor him. Others wanted to repair the damage done to the organization's reputation. Maya did not care about the reputation. She cared about Ranger. So she called Detective Collins. Can I ask you something? Of course. If we attend, can they use his image without permission? No. Can they make him perform? No. Can they touch him? Not without your consent. Maya nodded. Then maybe we'll go. The ceremony took place on a bright autumn morning. Ranger arrived wearing a simple soft harness. No military collar. No heavy equipment. No commands. He walked beside Maya. People turned to look. Some recognized him. Others had only heard the story. A large crowd stood near the stage. Several former soldiers were present. Ethan stood near the back. Naomi was beside him. When Ranger saw Ethan, he stopped. Maya waited. Ranger looked at Ethan. Then he continued walking. Ethan smiled. He understood. The ceremony began. A senior officer spoke about loyalty, about service, about courage, about sacrifice. Maya listened. But she knew there was something missing. The words were polished. The truth had been messy. Then the officer called Ranger forward. Maya walked beside him. The crowd became silent. Ranger stood calmly. A medal was brought forward. Maya looked at him. Then at the officer. He doesn't need to wear it. The officer nodded. Of course. Maya accepted the medal herself. She held it for a moment. Then placed it beside Ranger's harness. Ranger sniffed it. The crowd laughed softly. Maya smiled. He has done enough. The officer looked at Ranger. Then at the audience. Ranger served with extraordinary courage. The applause began. Ranger did not react. He simply looked at Maya. She crouched beside him. Let's go home. They walked away from the stage. Ethan watched. Naomi watched. The crowd continued applauding. But Ranger did not look back. He had already spent enough of his life looking backward. Now he was walking toward something new. Home. A quiet garden. A soft bed. A person who listened. And a life where he no longer had to prove that he was strong. He only had to be himself. Ranger walked away from the ceremony without looking back. Maya stayed beside him. The medal remained inside the small wooden box in her hand, wrapped in the same soft cloth she had used to protect his old photographs. Ranger did not need the medal. He had already earned something much more valuable. A quiet life. A safe home. And the freedom to decide what happened next. The drive home was peaceful. Ranger lay on the back seat with his head resting against the blanket. Every few minutes, Maya looked at him through the mirror. His eyes were closed. He looked tired. But it was a peaceful kind of tiredness. Not the exhaustion she had seen when he first arrived at the hospital. This was different. His body was finally learning how to rest. When they reached home, Ranger slowly climbed out of the car. Maya opened the gate. He walked into the garden. The same tree was waiting for him. He walked underneath it and lowered himself onto the grass. Maya sat beside him. You did well today. Ranger looked at her. She smiled. I know you didn't like all those people. His tail moved once. Me neither. For a while, they simply sat together. Then Maya heard footsteps behind her. She turned. Ethan stood at the gate. He was holding the old wooden box. Maya looked at him. I thought you took that home. I did. Then why bring it back? Ethan opened the box. Inside was Ranger's old military harness. Maya looked at it. Ranger noticed. He stood. For a second, Maya worried that he would panic. But Ranger simply walked toward the box. He sniffed the harness. Then he looked at Ethan. Ethan crouched. I don't want you to wear it. Ranger remained still. I just thought you should have it. Maya looked at Ethan. Why? Because it belongs to his past. He touched the harness. But it doesn't have to control his future. Maya nodded. Ranger turned away from the harness. He walked back toward the tree. Ethan smiled. I guess he made his choice. He usually does. Ethan stood. I have something else. He pulled an envelope from his coat. Maya opened it. Inside was a letter. She read it silently, then looked at Ethan. What is this? A letter to the organization. What does it say? I told them what happened. Maya stared at him. You admitted everything? Everything I remember. Why? Ethan looked at Ranger. Because I spent too long protecting people who didn't deserve protection. Maya folded the letter. That's brave. Ethan shook his head. No. He looked toward Ranger. Keeping quiet was easy. Then he walked toward the gate. Ranger watched him leave. This time he did not look confused. He simply rested his head on his paws. Maya sat beside him. The case continued to move through the legal system. More witnesses came forward. More documents were discovered. And slowly, the story became impossible to hide. The investigation revealed that Ranger was not the only working dog who had been mishandled. Several retired animals had been transferred without complete medical records. Some had injuries that were never properly documented. Others had been labeled difficult when they were actually suffering from fear and pain. Ranger's case became the reason those records were reviewed. Maya never expected that. She had only wanted to save one dog. But one dog had opened a much larger door. Months later, Detective Collins visited Maya. She sat on the porch while Ranger slept beneath the tree. We finished the investigation. Maya looked at her. And several people will face charges. Maya nodded. Marcus. He accepted a plea agreement. Does he admit what he did? He admitted to violating the training protocol. Maya looked toward Ranger. Does that mean he admits he hurt him? Yes. Maya was quiet. Why? Detective Collins looked at Ranger. Because the evidence was overwhelming. Maya nodded. What about the missing medical records? We found the original copies. All of them. Most. Who kept them? A veterinarian who had retired years ago. Maya looked surprised. Why did he keep them? Because he knew someone might need them someday. Maya smiled sadly. Someone did. Detective Collins nodded. There was one final note. What note? It was written by the veterinarian who examined Ranger after the incident. Maya looked at her. What did it say? Detective Collins opened a folder. She handed Maya a copy. Maya read the short note. It said that Ranger had not shown aggression during the examination. He had shown fear. The veterinarian had written that Ranger needed time, patience, and protection. At the bottom was one final sentence. Do not mistake a frightened animal for a dangerous one. Maya looked at Ranger. Her eyes filled with tears. Those words explained the entire story. Ranger had never been the monster people described. He had been a wounded animal trying to survive. And sometimes survival looked frightening from the outside. Maya folded the paper. I wish someone had listened earlier. Detective Collins nodded. So do I. She stood. Before leaving, she looked at Ranger. He's lucky. Maya smiled. I think I'm the lucky one. That evening, Maya prepared Ranger's dinner. He ate slowly. Then he walked to the living room. A soft blanket waited beside the sofa. He turned around twice. Then lay down. Maya sat nearby. She opened the wooden box. The old military harness was inside. The metal rested beside it. The photographs were underneath. She looked at the picture of young Ranger. Strong. Confident. Fearless. Then she looked at the dog lying peacefully beside her. He was older now. His face had become gray. One ear drooped slightly. His hip would always hurt. His body would never be the same. But his eyes were calm. Maya smiled. You know what? Ranger opened one eye. You don't look broken. His tail moved. You look experienced. Ranger closed his eye again. Maya laughed. That's better. Years passed. Ranger grew older. His walks became shorter. His sleep became longer. He no longer ran. He did not need to. His favorite place remained the garden. He loved lying beneath the tree. Children from the neighborhood sometimes came to visit. Maya taught them how to approach him. Don't run toward him. Don't grab his face. Let him come to you. The children listened. One little boy sat several feet away. Ranger watched him. The boy held out a small toy. Ranger slowly walked over. He sniffed it. Then sat beside the boy. The child smiled. Maya smiled too. She realized Ranger had become something she never expected. A teacher. He taught people patience. He taught them that fear could look like anger. He taught them that trust could return slowly. He taught them that healing was not always dramatic. Sometimes healing was simply sleeping peacefully through the night. Sometimes it was eating a full meal. Sometimes it was choosing to approach a stranger. Sometimes it was walking into a garden without looking over your shoulder. And sometimes it was placing your head on someone's lap, because you finally knew they would not hurt you. One winter morning, Ranger woke later than usual. Maya noticed immediately. She sat beside him. Hey. Ranger opened his eyes. He looked at her. She stroked his head. How are you feeling? He moved his tail. Maya smiled. Good. She helped him stand. He took a few slow steps, then stopped. Maya waited. He continued. They reached the garden. The air was cold. Frost covered the grass. Ranger walked beneath the tree. He lay down. Maya placed a warm blanket around him. You want to stay here? Ranger closed his eyes. She sat beside him. The morning was quiet. No tracks. No aircraft. No shouting. No metal sounds. Only birds, wind, and the soft breathing of an old dog. Maya rested her hand on his back. Thank you. Ranger opened his eyes. For what? She smiled. For teaching me. He closed his eyes again. Maya stayed beside him. That became their routine. Morning after morning. Until one spring day, Ranger could no longer walk to the tree. Maya carried his blanket outside. She placed it on the porch. Ranger lay down in the sunlight. His breathing was slower. His body was tired. Dr. Bennett had warned Maya that this day would come. Ranger was old. His heart was weaker. His hip was painful. His body had survived more than most animals ever should. Maya sat beside him. You don't have to fight anymore. Ranger looked at her. She cried quietly. You've done enough. He moved his head toward her. She held him. For a long time, they stayed together. Then Ranger looked toward the garden. Maya understood. She helped him outside. They moved slowly. One step. Then another. Finally he reached the tree. He lay down. The sunlight warmed his face. Maya sat beside him. Ethan came later. Naomi came too. Dr. Bennett arrived. They all sat quietly. No one gave commands. No one asked Ranger to stand. No one asked him to be strong. They simply stayed. Ranger opened his eyes. He looked at each person. Then he looked at Maya. She held his paw. You are home. Ranger's tail moved once. His eyes slowly closed. Maya whispered, you can rest. The garden became completely silent. Ranger took one slow breath. Then another. And then he was still. Maya bowed her head. She cried. Ethan cried. Naomi covered her face. Dr. Bennett placed a hand on Maya's shoulder. No one spoke for several minutes. They did not need to. Ranger had spent his life serving people. At the end, people served him. They gave him peace. They gave him dignity. And they stayed until he was no longer afraid. Weeks later, Maya planted a small tree in the garden. She placed a simple stone beneath it. There was no long speech. No military ceremony. No dramatic memorial. Only a few words. Ranger, brave enough to trust again. The garden continued growing. Flowers appeared around the tree. Birds landed on its branches. Children played nearby. And sometimes, Maya would sit beneath it and remember the old dog who had changed her life. She remembered the first night. The fear in his eyes. The damaged body. The warning nobody had listened to. She remembered how he had once frozen whenever someone raised a hand. How he had once trembled at the sound of metal. How he had once believed every closed door meant danger. And she remembered the last months of his life. The quiet mornings. The garden. The soft blanket. The ball he finally learned to play with. The way he rested his head on her knee. The way he chose to trust. That was Ranger's real victory. Not the missions. Not the medals. Not the military record. Not the stories people told about his bravery. His greatest victory was learning that the world could be gentle. Maya kept his old harness in the wooden box. She never threw it away. But she never used it either. It remained there as a reminder. A reminder that the past can explain us without owning us. A reminder that strength without compassion can become cruelty. A reminder that fear is not always aggression. And a reminder that sometimes the animal everyone has given up on is simply waiting for one person to listen. Years later, when Maya became a volunteer trainer for retired working dogs, she told every new volunteer the same thing. Don't ask them what they can do first. She would pause. Ask them what they are afraid of. Because that was the lesson Ranger had left behind. A wounded animal doesn't always need more discipline. Sometimes it needs less. Sometimes it needs space. Sometimes it needs patience. Sometimes it needs someone willing to sit on the floor and wait. And sometimes all it needs is one person to say, "You don't have to prove anything anymore." If Ranger's story meant something to you, help carry that message forward. Like this video, subscribe for more emotional stories, and share it with someone who believes that every life deserves a second chance. Maya continued working with retired animals for the rest of her career. She never forgot Ranger. Every difficult dog reminded her of him. Every frightened animal reminded her of his eyes. Every time an animal finally trusted a human hand. She remembered the first time Ranger had rested his head against her knee. She realized something important. People often talk about rescuing animals. But sometimes animals rescue people too. Ranger had rescued Maya from believing that healing had to be fast. He taught her that trust could take weeks, months, years. He taught her that progress could be so small that nobody else noticed. One step, one meal, one peaceful night, one tail movement, one choice. But those small moments were everything. Because a life is not changed only by one dramatic event. It is changed by thousands of small moments that slowly replace fear with safety. Ranger's life had once been defined by commands. His final years were defined by choices. That difference was everything. And perhaps that is why his story remained with everyone who knew him. Not because he was the strongest dog. Not because he had the longest service record. Not because he had survived the hardest missions. But because after everything people had done to him, he still chose to trust. He still chose kindness. He still chose to walk toward the people who loved him. And in the end, he left this world knowing one simple truth. He was finally home.